You know, I've recently been revisiting the first Blue Reflection game, which has been interesting because, unlike before, I decided to pay a bit more attention on the enemy data and also some of the character stats in order to have more intimate understanding of the game's meta, unlike before where I felt like I was just mindlessly breezing through the game. This also means that I decided to dedicate a bit more time on the sub-stories, which I'm glad I'm doing it, partially because I want to see if I can replicate the same amount of investment I had when I played the sub-stories in Second Light. However, as I've been doing all of this, I've kind of been wondering to myself, does this game series have any future? Now, I may have already been aware that earlier this year, a mobile gacha game based on Blue Reflection was released. I haven't played this one for two main reasons. A, this hasn't been released to the West, so I can't read half the shit that's written there, but most importantly, I religiously dislike gacha games. But as of right now, this is the only new Blue Reflection material that we have. And you know, something that does worry me is the idea that Gust probably wanted this series to be more successful than what it ended up being. And because of that, I don't think this will ever be as well treated as the Atelier series when it comes to regularly released games. And maybe deep down, I don't really want that. I mean, Blue Reflection Tai came out 4 years after the first game, and I thought it was a great sequel. It introduced a new cast of characters who are easy to love, while also bringing back veterans and tying the previous stories, including the anime series, very nicely. You know, I think this franchise expanding itself may end up driving me into creating expectations for what to expect in future projects, and maybe even more than I think this series really needs. But at the same time, knowing what happens in Blue Reflection Sun gives me the urge to want to know more about this universe and want to see more stories being adapted tastefully. But if the solution to this is gacha games, then that doesn't exactly leave me very excited. Now, there's this YouTube channel called Eclectic Translations that has been doing God's work and translating certain events, not all of them. One of the things that happened in this Blue Reflection Sun game that kind of made me develop an aneurysm was seeing Ao. On one hand, it was pretty cool seeing Ao talk to Shiho and Kirara again, even if they obviously don't recognize each other, but at the same time, Ao is a walking plot hole in this game. First of all, she shouldn't have any memories of the Ash pandemic, and yet she found herself in the same timeline where this occurred. Additionally, amongst the entire cast of Second Light, Ao was a complete stranger, and yet in this game she just casually waltzed in. Now, the only way I can rationalize this would be if, I don't know, maybe they just got mind wiped, which is interesting because in Second Light, Ao was the only character who still retained some of her memories at the very beginning, while everyone else could now remember jack shit. But in this game, it's the opposite. I have to assume that there's some lore reason for why this is happening, although to be honest, and maybe this is just the cynical side of me speaking, but I'm doubtful if they're actually gonna come up with a reasonable explanation, because from my perspective, the only reason Ao showed up in this game was to simply promote her event, increase the pool of cards, and encourage more whaling. Although, then again, apparently she recognizes the main character of this game, so I guess I'm curious to know where they're going with that. There definitely seems to be some amount of build up for more lore revelation, which is kind of interesting, but I don't know. This is not how I personally wanted the Blue Reflection series to expand its lore. Frankly speaking, if this was a console game, bro, not only would I have bought this day one, but I could easily see myself dedicating my time exploring this universe. Maybe Blue Reflection Sign is doing a lot to some players. I'm sure there are enough people having their fair share of enjoyment, but part of me is wondering how long will it take before this eventually gets shut down, much like Dengekibuko Crossing Void when it couldn't attract a big enough player base, and their IPs are even stronger. I don't want to see this franchise die, so it wouldn't exactly make me happy knowing that this project as a whole is failing, but at the same time, I can't think of a better way to communicate to Koei, Gust, and the entire production community that this ain't it. But if this is successful, well, I hope that at the very least we'll see a console game getting released in the future. In fact, with how confusing the lore is with this game, I wouldn't even fault them if they took the Ryuga Gotoku Online route of just completely ignoring and pretending like nothing in this game ever happened, while Ichiban becomes the main character of what I would consider a much better game. If this entire cast comes back in a different console game with slightly adjusted backstories, I might honestly be willing to pretend like Blue Reflection Sun never occurred. I don't know if this will ever happen, especially because I believe I heard somewhere that apparently Mel Kishida told during a YouTube stream that this was pretty much the direction of the series from now on. But at this point, I'm open to any compromises for a new console game. But anyway, that's all I have to share. Koei, DMM Games, at the very least, can you just publish a global version of this game so that we can all follow the story? Or even just an option for the English language? I'm not asking much, just don't leave us in the dark. Anyway, that's all I have to share. Take care.